Hey guys, Bobby Rio here with my friend Richard LaRuina. And Richard, how's it going today?
Yeah, very good. Nice to be speaking to you.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited for this because Richard and I have been friends for close to 10 years now, and it's probably been about 5 or 6 years since I've actually sit down and done one of these interviews with him. And he was in the past one of the guys that I always really enjoyed jumping on these kind of calls with because I always got something out of it personally, and I knew that my listeners and my readers always seem to really enjoy this. So I'm excited for today.
Great, me too.
So first, I guess the question I'd have for you is just, kind of for guys that might not be familiar with you, um, give us a little background of how you got into this. Kind of, maybe a minute on your story, kind of fill guys up to speed who might not know who you are.
Cool. So I was a 21-year-old virgin. I was very shy, introverted, few friends. I was bullied and teased at school. I changed schools 7 times. Had, just very depressed, unhappy childhood. And when it came to, my older years, when I got into my late teens and early 20s, obviously I wanted, I saw little girls around that I was attracted to in my school, college, and work, and I felt totally helpless. I would, blush and couldn't say anything. I didn't approach any women. I didn't get any numbers. I didn't get any dates in that time. So it wasn't like I was trying and failing. I was just terrified, and this kind of continued, but I actually found out, at some point that it was something I could do something about, to learn to be confident and good with women.
Hmm.
And I studied it as much as I could. Then I went out, I started trying things, and basically I devised a system that worked. And that was, back in 2006. And then since then, I've written, best-selling book, been featured in all the media, and I've got my business, and things have gone from there. And I guess guys like what I teach because I'm not a natural. I'm not a guy that says just be confident. I'm not a guy that doesn't understand where they're coming from, because whatever their problem is, I'm sure that I've had it, and I've definitely helped some other guys through it as well. So that's where I am today.
Nice, nice. Now, one of the questions I always like to ask, and I might be putting you on the spot, is was there like a light bulb moment in terms of, I know I went through a similar journey, and you know, and I know over the course of the journey, there's a lot of like ahas that kind of, oh wow. But off the top of your head, when you were going through that journey, was there one big aha that made the biggest difference for you that you can think of?
No, I mean, just as you said that, like a few situations popped into my mind. Like the first time I was talking to a couple of girls and they giggled, and I was like, what? I made someone laugh instead of them thinking I'm just boring and, awful. And another time when, I was sitting next to this girl and I must have been talking to her for about 2 hours in the bar. And I just desperately wanted to go in for the kiss, and I didn't know how to do it. And it's, time was just ticking and ticking. And I was like, fuck it, and dived in. maybe it wasn't even that smooth, but it worked. And I was like, shit, I can do it. That's amazing. So, quite a few. Yeah, normally those firsts, right? The first time for each big thing, whether it's, approaching a girl in the street or the coffee shop, or or maybe getting a compliment for the first time, instead of being called loser and ugly and get away from me, but the girl's saying, wow, you're really cool, are you a player, or something like that. So many, I don't think there was one, really big moment, or one moment where just everything
Yeah, or
changed.
even like an aha moment. So like you mentioned the first time you leaned in and kissed the girl, and how great it was. But even for me, like an aha moment during my learning process was you can just lean in and kiss them, and you don't have
Yeah,
to wait to the end of the night, and you don't it doesn't have to be like as you're dropping them off and you
you don't
saying
have to
good night.
ask for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, can I please kiss you?
yeah.
Yeah, no, in terms of that stuff, I mean, something big for me was that I think I gave women too much respect to the point that they didn't like it,
Mm,
because I was like, I better not talk to her because she's probably busy. I better not try and kiss her because she might not want to. She's probably got a boyfriend, or she's probably busy, so she wouldn't want to meet me for a date. So it was always giving women so much respect that wouldn't even try anything. But when I found that I started trying things in the right way,
Hmm.
the responses were very good, and I was able to, give women what they want, because they want a guy that is, decisive and making the moves. So I kind of transitioned from this terrified guy that just, shit his pants at any second,
Yeah.
to a guy that was confidently making the moves because I knew that the women wanted them.
No, yeah, that's a great insight because you do get a lot of guys who do kind of make up. We always in early side call it like women have make up my mind for me syndrome, and guys make up their mind in the way that you did, where that they assume the no, they assume where it's like it's really just about being. I think you said leading them to it or being confident about your thought of what they want. I was talking to somebody and I always say like the guys get nervous of oh well, what if I want to take her here and she's not into that kind of place? I want to bring
Yeah.
her to a sushi restaurant. She doesn't eat sushi. She would rather you just be certain and say, "Here's where we're going," than you say, "Oh, is that
Yeah.
okay? Is that?" Don't think about it. It's more enjoyable for her to let you lead her wherever, and she'll be fine.
For sure. Yeah, it's even nice to have a guy that's a bit, different and a bit of a challenge. And having her sit there and not like sushi, she's probably going to end that night happier than if
Yeah,
you somehow keep asking her 20 questions and find the ideal perfect restaurant based on those requirements.
exactly. So how about because I know you guys were quite huge in bringing guys out and really taking them and working very very for years individually with them and in group settings. And I'm curious when you do that if you notice any common mistakes that you're seeing from guys that you're working with over the years,
Yeah,
especially
for
guys that are
sure.
just starting to get into this and just starting to improve this area of their life.
Yeah, I did lots of things. So, one of the quite interesting things that I would do is I would get a very beautiful girl, so imagine a very beautiful model, and I'd get the guy and tell him, okay, like it's a practice date. So I assume he's gotten into a conversation and he has to just talk to her. And there were so many mistakes that would come up in the conversation.
Mm.
Um, and then later on, obviously, we get to the escalation. But normally, we did it kind of step by step. So it's like approach anxiety, and then it's just a whole litany of conversation mistakes. And then when it's going for the move, either not doing it because they're terrified, missing the moment, then ending up just in the friend zone, or the girl getting bored and leaving, or making the move in the wrong way and freaking her out. So probably about six, common mistakes that, a guy would definitely have at least one of them and potentially all.
How about from a conversation standpoint, off the top of your head, what's one or two um, things you notice that guys tend to do that's a mistake and might hinder attraction?
So the guy, when he meets a very beautiful girl, he immediately wants to play it safe. So he forgets about, the teasing, banter, and fun stuff that he does with his friends, and he's just playing it safe. It means that, she says something that he thinks is kind of weird or kooky or silly, and he's like, oh, wow, that's cool, So he's agreeing. He's generally got a fixed smile on his face, and it's like, why has he got that smile? A smile should be like a reward for something, or
Yeah.
because you're genuinely happy in that moment. He's just got it fixed. So he seems like a fake, like a cheap salesman. He's going to ask her questions because he thinks it's what he should do. What do you do? Where are you from? What do you like to do in your spare time? Whatever, these questions. And he's just doing it because it's kind of the template,
Mm.
but it's not actually what he wants to know. And it's not actually important or relevant or interesting. And therefore, he's got nothing to say about it. So, like, we haven't spoken for a while. I'm genuinely interested. If I'm like, what have you been doing in these years? What's going on in your life? I really want to know. And
Yeah.
you tell me, I'm going to be listening, paying attention, and then I'm going to comment on that, and we're going to go deeper. But if I'm like, okay, I'm talking to this guy, I don't really care, but I guess I need to ask him something. I'm like, so, what'd you do today?
Yeah.
He tell me, and I'm like, okay, cool. I've got
Yeah.
nothing to say about that, right? So, I guess they're so much focused on like what she thinks of him and whether he's got the right body language or whatever it is, that he doesn't actually care, about her. So you can easily fix that. You just change your mindset to, okay, she's beautiful. Let's forget that, Now let me find out who she is. Like, let me find out what kind of person she is. If she meets my requirements, if she's the kind of girl that, of course, I'd sleep with her, but could I have a long-term relationship with her? That's what I'm curious about. And taking away the dependency, like the outcome, like I need to get her number, I need to sleep with her. Like, let's just have some fun. Let's find out something about her. And that causes you to ask interesting questions, to tease her. And if it helps, you can just follow the structure where you just don't ask question, question, question. You ask a question, listen to the response, and you make a statement on it, try to connect on it, try to go a bit deeper, and then switch subjects only when that one's dry, So if you're asking about her work and she loves her job, you can go into that and like bring those feelings out. If you ask her about a job and she's like, oh, it's not very good, something boring, she doesn't like it. Okay, fine, change subjects quickly. But, being attentive to that, thinking about what is she feeling something in that moment? Is she laughing, or is she speaking about something that she's really interested in? Because she could be laughing because you're teasing her. She could be feeling sexual and a pulse increasing because of the sexual tension you're building. Or she could just be talking about shopping or something, but she loves it. Or telling you about some holiday she had and she's just into that. And all of those things would mean that after that interaction, she looks back and she's like, I felt nice emotions with that guy. So I want to see him again. But I guess I've gone off on 20 tangents.
No, but you brought up actually there's a handful of things as you were talking that I think, the last thing you said was really, really important and was that if she's just talking about things like she's just answering you questions and talking about whatever, her job, but she's not really into it. And then you talk to her, oh, where did you grow up? The conversation ends and she had no real emotional reaction to it. And when you don't have emotional reaction, you easily forget something. You're not charged, and you've probably, all the times you've been out in the field yourself and working with clients, like even if if you ever seen a woman who's like gets mad at a guy, it's so much easier to turn that emotional response of anger where, you say something and it pisses her off, but at least now she's angry. And even though that's not necessarily a positive emotion, she has an emotion. And then if you keep going, it's a lot easier to take that anger into attraction than it is indifference into attraction. And,
for sure.
So the more emotional response you can get, that was something you said. Another thing you said, and I'm just kind of recapping some of the stuff I found interesting is, the idea that you want to be curious and go into it with a curious mindset and not so much your own agenda of, hey, I got to go in and say funny stuff and, I have to show her how attractive I am and I have to tell stories that, show that I have money or that I have a good, and you just go into it like, let me be curious, not only curious in the sense of, finding out things about her, because that can, if you're saying, oh, I'm just going to like find out as many facts about her, that's not really, I think what you're talking about or
No.
I think curious is like, well, if I say this kind of thing, how's she going to react? If I make this sort of statement, how, what kind of reaction will that get out of her? How, how dirty is her sense of humor? Let me see, like, how quickly can I touch her? How comfortable is she? There's all these things you can find out in a conversation where you're learning about her, where it doesn't involve, asking her a million questions about her life. So I thought that was a good point you made.
Exactly. Yeah, that stuff doesn't matter, right? All of those, the LinkedIn profile or the Facebook profile, the information on there is irrelevant. What really tells you about someone is, how, if this relationship progressed, how would the time with them be? Once you know each other well and you're relaxed, like, how's it going to be? Can you play and joke together? Is it going to be interesting sexually? Can you have deep conversations? Is she got strong opinions on stuff? Is she really annoying and moody, or is she really cool and chilled? Is she like one of the guys, or is she really feminine? It's all of this stuff. This is what is really interesting. You can't find that out unless you've got this kind of mindset where you're thinking, because most guys just decide, I want her, she's hot, I want to sleep with her, and they don't care about all that stuff. But later they will, like they really will. And for any guy that's looking for a serious relationship, then it's absolutely 100% necessary that he really thinks about, this stuff, these characteristics that are attractive or interesting to him, and then meets girls, and he's really thinking about, like, is she kind, things
Yeah.
like this that he hasn't cared about to that point. Maybe he's just, I need to fuck her, I need to fuck
Yeah.
her. He doesn't care. And when you just have that, like, I already want her vibe, you can't really attract her. It's kind of counterintuitive, but when you've already decided that you want her, you're not challenging her, you're not showing her approval when she does good things, disapproval when she says something that you don't like. So it kind of bombs. And I guess that's kind of a subtle thing. It's almost, in a game, something you need in your mind before you even start talking. But when you have it, then what you say is much better without even layering on any techniques or, any stuff like that.
Yeah. No, it's funny as you said that, and you've probably experienced this when you said guys don't even care that she's not nice, and I'm sure you've worked with clients and students who they're telling you about what this, they're telling you how much they want this girl, and they're like, I need you to help me get her, and they're talking about her, and you're like, she sounds like an asshole. Like, why do you even,
Yeah.
why do you even want her? Like, and the other interesting thing that I found, right, is that, you kind of mentioned like wanting to sleep with her and not wanting her so soon. And what I found interesting with guys is that a lot of times it's like they want to sleep with her, but they hide that aspect of it.
Oh, yeah,
And
they're ashamed of
they're
that. Yeah.
ashamed of that. So then they come across like I want to be your boyfriend and I'm gonna like everything you say and agree with everything. And then she knows like immediately, oh, this guy wants something from me.
He's
But
untrustworthy.
yeah, but at the same but the one thing that they really want is just, oh, I just wanted to sleep. Well, then why did you hide that and present yourself as this, and then whine cry when you got in the friend zone.
Yeah, it's quite funny how guys, by being too nice, they just come across as dishonest, and then it takes longer to sleep with a girl. Because if I meet her, I will say, she's like, "Do you like my dress?" I'm like, "No, not really." If I don't.
Yeah,
It's not like a line I always say,
yeah,
right? If I don't, "Do you like this?" "No, I don't like it." We should go there sometime. "No, that place is shit." I would just say things like that, and she's kind of like taken aback, like, "Hang on, he's a bit, straightforward." But then when I say something like, "You know what, you're really cool,"
yeah,
or "Actually, that's really wise what you just said. That's spot on," she's like, that means a lot. Like, she will shiver. that's
yeah,
that's powerful. And guys that just smile and say me too all the time, they can't have that effect at all.
mm,
Likewise, when we're not, just to watch this tangent, likewise when we're not together and we're texting and stuff, like, I'm not answering. I'm quite unavailable, and then they're thinking, like, does he like me?
mm,
Does he want to see me again? Did something happen, on the date that wasn't that good or whatever? And then I message again, like, hey, what are you up to? And she's like, it's that
yeah,
guy. Versus, the guy that's like, hey, morning, how's it going today? Oh, you're at work, great. And oh, good night, sweetie. So I guess, it's about controlling yourself all through, the whole process, and always keeping in mind her emotions, that she needs to feel something and she needs to feel desire for you and
mm,
interest. Likewise, I don't talk about myself.
mm,
So what does she get? She gets intrigued. I'm mysterious. Then at some point she just starts grilling me, trying to find stuff out,
yeah,
because she really wants to know. But I don't tell her stuff in the beginning because she just met me. She don't want to know.
yeah. Yeah, it's like you said, it's ironic. Guys will meet a woman, and they come across as nice, comes across as dishonest, and it's like if a woman meets you, Richard, and she's an attractive woman, she knows that you would sleep with her, right? Like all
Of
women,
course,
she
yeah.
knows. Like so, you don't have to
Sometimes they
like,
even say, you just want to sleep with
yeah.
me, or you're just a player, or something
So
like that.
so so you don't even have to like guys try to hide that because they're like, oh, but it's like the woman knows that anyway. So why go out of your way to hide it? And then on the other hand, like you mentioned, when you're not as super eager to please her, what a woman doesn't know is she knows that if she talks to you, if she's an attractive woman, she knows if I wanna fuck Richard tonight, I can, right? Unless you're in a relationship or something like that. But
But
if
if
she,
sometimes I've got meetings and stuff, so I might
yeah,
be busy, so
but
she might have to schedule another day.
but she
But
knows that if
usually, yeah.
she knows that if she wants to sleep with, but what she doesn't know is would Richard want to call me again the next day? would he want to be my boyfriend? Like all these things, she doesn't know
Yeah.
that. That's where your power lies.
Like,
Is
can I get him
can I
as
get him as
my
more than
man, as
yeah? If I
boyfriend?
fuck
Yeah.
him, is he gonna talk to me again? And it's
Hmm.
ironic that most guys immediately show off like, oh, I don't want to fuck you. I just want to keep talking to you, talking to you, talking to you.
Yeah.
And you know how you mentioned with yourself that by kind of holding that information back and not showing that approval, now she's like, yeah, I could. You know, you're more of a challenge, which makes you more interesting, which adds that emotional stuff. And also, when you do finally give her the approval, like you said, when you do tell her that you like her dress or that, you know, hey, you're cool, it hits her at a much more emotional level than
Yeah.
if you're doing that right off the bat.
I normally don't give a compliment till after I've had sex, but
Yeah, I
you know,
mean,
maybe something like that, like, you know, about it's something she does is cool, or so she said something smart or whatever, but like physical compliment only after sex.
yeah. So the one thing I want to ask you about, because I know that you know you had mentioned that you were really shy growing up, and I know that you have a you know one of your breakthrough programs was called Stealth Seduction, which kind of was something that was designed a lot to do with kind of coming in under the radar to kind of get out of that fear of rejection. So you want to talk a little bit about like the fear of rejection and kind of how guys can I want to say get through that or sort of counter that.
Hmm. So I think, you know, the traditional thing, so, you know, for guys watching this, it's like, okay, you need to go out and talk to 20 women.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're going to get rejected, you know, for some of those, right? So it's kind of scary. If you knew that it would work, obviously you'd be fine with it. So what stops you is that fear of rejection. So even though you probably know that you would get at least 20%, you know, results, you'd probably get some good reactions. The thing that holds you back is that fear of rejection. So the whole idea of stealth attraction was that if we can find a way to, you know, approach women, get into interactions without any chance of rejection, but then also escalate physically, go for the kiss without any chance of rejection, then we've got something, you know, super powerful. And working in the, you know, the clubs of London, New York, different places, that was what I was doing, you know, because I was in a, you know, like a high-end environment with a lot of the same people. The club scene in those levels are actually quite, you know, tight, right? So you can't just go around, you know, the small boutique club and hit on all 10 women, right? You need to be very smooth, subtle, under the radar, because you can't risk that public rejection. If you're in a club with 1,000 people, fine. So I honed a technique, you know, for each stage of the interaction where there could be rejection so that there isn't any. And I think that, you know, the traditional approach that guys have is like, the girl's over there, she's a stranger, you know, she might have a boyfriend, she might hate me, she might hate men, she might not speak English, like, you know, million things. And just all of the reasons for not doing it means that we live in a world where men don't find the women that they need, and women are not even happy because they're meeting the wrong guys, you know, and it's all fucked up. And the biggest problem is probably that, you know, the guys just don't approach when they like someone, or don't say when they like someone.
So can you, you know, I know that it's an entire, you know, topic that we can open up, but, you know, in a smaller scale of some of the stuff you're talking about.
Like, give an example?
Yeah, an example of maybe some, you know, I know one of your big things is like nonverbal game, and, you know, something that kind of shows some element of being under the radar.
So I'll give you a, you know, one example of many. So let's say you're talking to 3 girls in a bar, and you like, you know, one of them, let's say it's the one on the right, and you're speaking to all of them, but you're giving her slightly more attention. You've got your hands by your side, she's got her hands by her side. After 20, 30 minutes or however long, when you decide that, you know, you like that one and it's kind of going well, you could just have the back of your hand touch the back of her hand and just, you know, just put it there. So it's not taking her hand, it's just back of hand on back of hand. But if you imagine that feeling now, it's actually quite intimate. You know, your fingers are touching, back of your hand is touching. Now, what have you got there? She's not going to take her hand away as if, you know, it was a, you know, boiling fire there, right? But if she doesn't like it, she will move like 1 centimeter, you know, she'll move her hand away 1 centimeter. So I've got all of these kind of ways to escalate and test the water all the way to the kiss in the bedroom like that, so
Yeah.
that you're testing. And plus her friends didn't even see, by the
Mm.
way, your friends didn't see, the whole bar didn't see. So it's like you've gone over, you're talking to these girls, it's kind of going okay, you test it like that, she keeps her hand there, or she even plays back and starts, touching your fingers or something, you're in, you're probably sleeping with her tonight.
Yeah.
And how did you tell? You could probably just go away to talk to your mate, say, I'm going to be back in a little while. Come back and say, but babe, let's go. And she'll leave with you, because you've already tested it all the way. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of what I always did. And people were always surprised when they see me in the bar, because it's like he's talking to the girl and then he's kissing her, or he's just walking and then they're leaving, or, he just, they didn't see it because they were missing the small little moves,
Yeah.
because they weren't the usual moves of put your arm round, lunging for the kiss, kind of the drunk guy's playbook.
Yeah. No, what I like about that move is a couple things. One is that, you said it allows you to kind of gauge her interest level. If she keeps her hand there, you can assume that she's into it, and it makes you more confident to kind of progress things with her. The other thing about it is that, I always say, like, attraction really isn't black or white. Like, a lot of times a girl doesn't really know how she feels. She's not really, you're just some guy there, and, you're okay looking to her. But what's interesting is that by doing that, there's sort of a sexual tension that's going to develop.
Yep.
Even if I wasn't into some girl and all of a sudden she walks over and she's kind of her hands touching me, just the mere fact that she's a female and I'm a male, I'm going to sit there and all of a sudden I'm going to have that, that physical touch that isn't innocent. It's not like I can be like, oh, that's creepy because it's innocent, but I'm going to now start thinking about her in that other way, even if I hadn't been, because of that sexual tension that's there.
Because it's innocent, but it's unusual. Like,
Yeah.
it's the kind of touch that is almost intimate,
Yep.
but it's acceptable. So it gives you all the answers. And that's exactly right what you said. A lot of guys end up in the friend zone, and it doesn't matter if they're, rich, handsome, like, the ideal guy that she's actually, in that moment, she says, I want a guy that went to Harvard and got $10 million and drives a Lamborghini. And that guy comes in, he's gonna, she ain't gonna leave with him if she doesn't feel the sexual tension, right? So the way you get her to feel it is by doing stuff like this, just injecting these subtle things in. Of course, you can be really verbally crass and stuff like, you're so sexy, I want to have sex with you, but that just rarely works. That doesn't work on women.
And I think it also, what's good about this, and that not every guy has the personality to pull off that sexual crass talk. Some guys do.
Yeah.
We both have friends that can go out and be at a party and just say the most outlandish shit. Whereas, both of us, myself and yourself, we tend to be more on the quieter, introverted
With gentlemen,
side.
I'd say.
Yeah. So if, if somebody says, oh, you got to say this sort of thing to a girl, if it's not your personality type, it's going to fall flat. Like, if you go out and you try to be this loud, sexually aggressive, verbally guy, although it can work quite well for some guys, if that's not your style, it's going to fall. Whereas something like this, no matter what your verbal style is, it's still going to work,
I would say the verbal stuff is just too obvious, and it forces her to make a decision. So it's like, I want to sleep with you. She has to think in that moment, do I want to sleep with him? It's not the question you want a girl to be asking. And, really at any point, you just want it to just happen smoothly, not to have the moment where she needs to decide. So when you start doing things non-verbally, they don't trigger that decision point. So she just goes with it because it's pleasant, goes with it, and then she's in your bed. But like you said, some guys can be, really loud and brash and sexual verbally and stuff, and that will work for some guys on some girls.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about something that would work for any guy with any type of girl, then it's the non-verbal stuff like this.
Yeah, I can, as you're telling this, I'm remembering a story. It was like a graduation party several years after I graduated college, and we're all hanging out, and it's a pool party, and then we all drinking and hanging out, and we start, it's like 10 guys, 10 girls, and we're falling, passing out in different couches, and I'm laying on a couch, and this like 6 foot like beast of a girl lays down next to me, right? And I'm laying there, and all of a sudden I feel somebody rubbing my hand, and I'm like, who's that? But I just kind of went with it because it was the end of the night. And
Mm-hmm.
next thing I know, I'm like turning over and kissing this girl, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And it's because she went with it in this sort of way. Whereas had she tried to verbally flirt with me, I would have just shot it down.
Or just jumped, like grabbed your dick or something.
Yeah,
Something that was
exactly
that was too much.
Or exactly, or if she just started, putting her hand on my pants, I would have been like, what? But by laying there, I was very relaxed, very comfortable. And the next thing I know, I snapped myself out of it. But
Mm-hmm.
a woman that I never would have had any interest in, just by doing that, allowed
She
her
watched
to kind of
Self-Attraction, I think.
exactly. So talk to me a little bit about what else is in stealth attraction, and tell the people listening it's been a probably one of the most talked about and successful programs that I can remember having come out with over the past several years. We want to give the guys some idea of what else you dig into the program.
Cool. So I mean, it's kind of a open to close method. It's got how to recognize the signals, how to generate the signals in women, how to appear more attractive, so that you kind of prime the approach, because a woman's already judged you when she's kind of seen you out of the corner of her eye. So we go from that moment through to what to say, the early stages of the interaction, lots of conversation stuff, some great stuff on teasing, which is very important for building attraction, and then into the end about the escalation to the kiss in all kinds of different ways, different scenarios, some quite sexual stuff, and then of course how to take them home right there. And that stuff is, that's very focused on, I would say, nighttime, which means, bar, it means club, but it also means first date when you're having, drinks or something like that. So there's a night element to it, but then we've also got a massive day game component that we've got in there that is absolutely huge. And day game is very different. You don't touch as much, you don't stand as close, you don't need to shout in their ear. It's way more verbal than non-verbal. So we've got the whole day game blueprint in there as well, and that shows guys how to meet women in any daytime location, whether it's a mall, coffee shop, street, whatever it is.
Nice. So Richard and I have put a link together for you guys at tsbmag.com/stealth, where you can learn more about stealth seduction. And the one thing that I will say, and you probably, if you're listening to this, you can see that with Richard, is that he's really been out there. He's been in this 10 years, and I've done several interviews with him over the years, and I still reference stuff on conversation, and connection that I've learned from him. I've referenced a lot of stuff over the years from him. I've still gone back and read his book, The Natural Art of Attraction or Seduction.
Seduction.
Natural Art of Seduction. It's a paperback book that I have on my bookshelf, and when I'm trying to reference something to somebody. So he's definitely a guy that has been around a while, and definitely you can learn a lot from. tsbmag.com/stealth. Any final, piece of advice you want to leave the listeners with?
I mean, to wrap up, we could just do a little recap. So,
Sure, yep.
Have the right mindset. That's going to make your conversations better. Remember that, women expect a sexual man. They expect a man that is decisive and making moves. And as long as those moves are respectfully made, you should make them. If you go on a date with the girl that you've always wanted and you don't go for the kiss, you're disappointing her and me and you as well, probably, disappointing everyone, right? So you need to make those moves, and you just need to make them in the smooth, respectable way, and then you'll make everyone happy. So, just that should really help your game. But it is possible to do it so that you're not facing countless rejections, and you can just jump straight to getting the great results, not go through the years of pain and suffering that I had to get there.
Isn't that funny though? The guys that you said they when they're out with her and they don't make a move. It's funny because they think they're doing it for her. They think they're like,
Yeah,
you know,
show her
and it's like she's
respect.
going home and she's pissed off because
Yeah, she was horny. She
she's
was
like,
like,
I
God.
put on my fucking outfit, I dressed up for this guy, and he doesn't even fucking try to kiss me. Like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
it's funny that as a guy,
And he's like, I got her number.
yeah,
Yeah. And she's like, oh, I'm not seeing him again. He's useless.
yeah,
He didn't make a move.
yeah. It's funny how guys think. Um, so yeah. So if you are the type of guy who does have that fear of rejection and it prevents you from making moves, I definitely recommend checking out